The harvest festival on Epsilon 7 filled the air with laughter and music. Children ran between the wooden tables, while adults shared food and stories. Dr. Hanacho stood near the edge of the celebration, watching the twin moons rise over the colony's wheat fields. She had been studying the local wildlife for 3 years now, and this place finally felt like home. Captain Duan Kim was guiding his transport ship, the Morning Star, through the outer rim when the emergency signal came through. His hands moved quickly across the controls as the distress message played. It was from Epsilon 7. The voice on the recording was panicked, cut off by static and screams. Day 1 pushed his engines to maximum speed, but he knew he was 2 days away. 2 days could mean everything or nothing. On Epsilon 7, the celebration ended when the sky tore open. Ships appeared from nowhere, sleek and dark. Like hunting birds, they moved with terrible grace as they descended on the colony. The aliens that emerged were tall, covered in layered armor that seemed to shift colors. They carried weapons that hummed with energy, but they did not fire immediately. They watched, they studied, they chose their targets carefully. 12-year-old Juan Park was helping her mother clean dishes when the first scream started. Her mother pushed her under the table and told her to stay quiet through the gaps in the tablecloth. Juan watched as the aliens moved through the crowd. They would wound someone, let them run, then follow at a walking pace. They seemed to enjoy the chase. Hana tried to organize and escape to the supply bunkers, but the aliens had already surrounded the main settlement. She saw them use strange devices that made people visible. Even when they hid, the aliens communicated in clicking sounds, almost like laughter when colonists fought back with farming tools and the few rifles they owned. The aliens simply deflected the attacks. They were toying with everyone, making sport of human desperation. The massacre lasted 6 hours. The aliens took their time. They planted devices that recorded everything, broadcasting the hunt to somewhere beyond the stars. When they finally left, the colony was silent, except for the wind moving through broken structures and the crackling of fires. Daewon arrived to find the colony destroyed. His crew moved through the settlement in protective gear, searching for survivors. They found bodies, broken equipment, and scorch marks from alien weapons. The recordings devices the aliens left behind were still active, still transmitting. Daewon smashed one with his boot, rage filling his chest. They found Juan in the underground storage area, hidden behind water containers. She had not spoken since they found her. Her eyes were empty, staring at nothing. The medic wrapped her in a thermal blanket and carried her to the ship. Daewon knelt beside her and promised they would find out who did this. The girl just nodded slowly. The United Earth Coalition headquarters received reports throughout the week. 5 colonies attacked, thousands dead. The pattern was identical in each case. Unknown aliens arrived, hunted humans for hours, then departed. They left recordings behind, broadcasting the hunts across space. The aliens wanted everyone to know what they had done. Admiral Hunick Choi reviewed the footage in his office, watching with a grim expression. The aliens were systematic, skilled, and cruel. They treated humans like animals to be hunted for sport. He had spent 30 years in the military fighting pirates and managing colony disputes, but he had never seen anything like this. When Daewon brought the Morning Star to Earth. He carried Jiwon directly to the Coalition Medical Center. The doctors worked with her gently, trying to help her process the trauma. After 3 days, she finally spoke. She described the aliens in detail. How they moved, how they communicated, how they seemed to follow rules during the hunt. They never killed from a distance when they could chase. They never used their strongest weapons when weaker ones would do. The hunt had to be fair or it had no honor. The Coalition attempted contact with the aliens. They sent messages in every known language and frequency. The response came within a day. The alien message was translated by the AI system. The species called themselves the Hallstrom. They had ruled the hunting ground of space for thousands of years. Dozens of species existed only to be their prey. Humans were simply the newest addition to the game. The Hailstrom offered terms. Humans could surrender peacefully, accepting their role as prey, and some would be allowed to live in preserves. Or humans could resist, making the hunts more interesting. Either way, the outcome was certain. Humanity would be hunted. The message included recordings from other prey species showing centuries of subjugation and terror. Day 1 met with Admiral Hunick at the Coalition military headquarters. The building buzzed with activity as officers planned responses and analysts studied every detail of the Hailstrom attacks. Hana had been brought in as a consultant using her xenobiology expertise to understand the aliens. She spread images and data across the conference table. Look at their behavior patterns, Hannah said, pointing to footage of the hunts. They are apex predators, but they have never faced organized resistance. Every species they encountered either ran or died quickly. They expect prey to act like prey. Admiral Huni leaned forward. What are you suggesting? Hana met his eyes. I am suggesting they have never hunted something that hunts back. They have never been prey themselves. That is their weakness. Jiwon sat in the corner of the room listening. She was supposed to be in medical care, but she had insisted on attending the meeting. When the adults looked at her, she spoke quietly. They think we are weak. They think we will run forever. Go. Daewon put a hand on her shoulder. Then we show them what humans really are. The Admiral stood and walked to the window overlooking Earth's sprawling cities. Billions of people lived below, unaware of the threat approaching. He made his decision. The Coalition would not surrender. They would not run. If the Hailstrom wanted a hunt, humanity would give them one they would never forget. Admiral Hunick refused the Hailstrom ultimatum. Publicly, the message was broadcast across all human colonies and transmitted back to the alien empire. Humanity would not accept the role of prey. The Coalition declared a state of emergency and began mobilizing forces. But the real work happened in secret. Lieutenant Mi Quan specialized in infiltration and reconnaissance. She had spent years training for missions behind enemy lines, though those enemies had always been human pirates or rogue colonies. Now she faced something entirely different. Her team of 12 specialists prepared for a mission to Vex 3, a planet the Hailstrom used as a hunting preserve. Intelligence suggested the Haim kept captured humans on Vex 3, holding them for future hunts. Satellite scans showed large structures and what appeared to be observation posts. Mi studied the layout for weeks, memorizing every detail. Her team would Insert via stealth pods, locate the prisoners and extract them without alerting the Histrom guards. Dr. San Ho Lee worked alongside Minji, providing psychological profiles of the enemy. He was a military xenopsychologist who had studied predatory behavior in Earth species for decades. Now he applied that knowledge to an alien civilization. His findings were disturbing. The Hailstrom built their entire society around hunting, their religion, economy, social status, even their art centered on the concept of predation. They rank every species by huntworthiness. Sung-ho explained to the admiral, the more challenging the prey, the higher the honor in killing it. Right now humans rank near the bottom because we have shown no effective resistance. We are considered easy prey, barely worth the effort. Admiral Hunt studied the report, so if we fight back effectively, we become more valuable targets. Well, we have armh, yes, but also more dangerous. Their honor system has rules. They have never encountered a prey species that truly understands warfare. Every species they faced either fled their planets or died in simple defensive battles. None ever counterattacked. May's team launched from a hidden base in the asteroid belt. The stealth pods were experimental technology coated with materials that absorbed sensor scans. They drifted toward Vex 3 like debris, taking 3 weeks to reach the planet. During that time, me and her team studied every scrap of information about the Ha. They learned the aliens always hunted in small packs of 3 to 7 individuals. Larger groups were considered dishonorable. Removing the challenge, they used cloaking technology but followed strict rules about when they could activate it. The hunt had to be sporting. The prey needed a chance, however small, to escape or fight back. The pods landed in a forested region 200 km from the main preserve facility. Minji's team moved through the alien landscape carefully. The plants were purple and silver, releasing spores that glowed faintly in the darkness. Strange animals watched them from the trees. Nothing like Earth species. It took 4 days to reach the preserve. The structure was massive, built from dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Guard towers rose at intervals, and Hailstrom soldiers patrolled in predictable patterns. MJI observed them for 2 full days, noting their routines and shift changes. Aliens were confident, almost lazy. Their security, they expected no threats. Inside the preserve, 73 humans lived in cramped cells. They came from different colonies captured during various hunts over the past year. Some had been there so long they had learned basic Hailstrom words. They whispered to each other about the hunts they had witnessed, the rules the aliens followed, and the weaknesses they had noticed. Mi's team infiltrated during a shift change, using cutting tools to breach the outer wall. The rescue took 20 minutes of tense work. The prisoners were weak from poor nutrition but mobile. One older man named Kiang grabbed Mi's arm as they evacuated. Listen, he whispered urgently. Their armor has weak points at the joints. The energy shields on their ships prioritize speed over defense. They always hunt in small packs because larger groups damage their honor ranking. I have been watching them for months. I have recorded everything as they moved toward the extraction point. The Hulstom discovered the breach when the morning shift arrived. Alarms blared across the preserve. Mi's team ran with the prisoners, fighting a running battle. Through the purple forest, they lost 2 team members but reached the hidden shuttle as they lifted off Hailstrom. Ships pursued them, but the shuttle's experimental drive system allowed them to escape. Back on Earth, Hana continued her research. She made a breakthrough. While studying human evolutionary history, humans were unique among Earth predators because they practiced persistence hunting. Ancient humans would chase prey for hours or even days, following at a steady pace until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. No other intelligent species in the galaxy had evolved this way. Most predators in the galaxy are ambush hunters or sprinters, Hana explained to a packed conference room. They use speed, strength, or venom to kill quickly. The Hailstrom are sprint predators with technology, but humans evolved to outlast our prey. We sweat to cool ourselves. We can run for hours without stopping. Our bodies are built for endurance, not speed. Admiral Hunix saw the implications immediately. So we cannot outrun them in a sprint, but we can outlast them in a marathon. Exactly. And they have never faced prey that can do this. Every species they hunt either dies quickly or hides. None of them chase back. The coalition developed Operation Reversal based on these findings. Instead of defending fixed positions, humanity would turn the tables. Using persistence and endurance, they would make the Hailstrom experience what it felt like to be hunted by something that never stopped, never rested, never gave up. The rescued prisoners provided detailed intelligence. Engineers studied the armor joint weaknesses and developed weapons specifically designed to exploit them. Military strategists planned tactics around small unit operations that could pursue and exhaust Hailstrom hunters. Psychologists crafted messages designed to undermine the alien honor system. Dr. Sung-ho interviewed every rescued prisoner, building a comprehensive profile of Hailstrom psychology. The aliens were overconfident to the point of arrogance. They had ruled the galaxy for so long that they could not imagine being challenged. Their society had no concept of defeat because they had never experienced it. That blind spot would be their downfall. 3 months after the rescue operation, the Hailstrom sent another message. They announced the grand hunt. Their greatest hunters would descend on Earth itself, broadcast across their empire as the ultimate sporting event. It would be the largest hunt in their history. They gave humanity 1 month to prepare, not as mercy, but to make the hunt more exciting. The message ended with footage of Hailstrom hunters preparing their weapons and armor. Billions of aliens watched the broadcasts, eager to see humanity hunted to extinction. The recordings showed Hailstrom discussing which human cities would provide the best hunting grounds and which colonists would make the finest trophies. Admiral Huni watched the message with Duan, Hana, and me. Juan sat with them, now 3 months older and harder than the terrified child they had rescued. She had insisted on attending every briefing, learning everything about the enemy. They think we will run, Juan said quietly. Hyun smiled grimly. Then we let them think that we prepare the trap, and when they come hunting for prey, they will find predators waiting. Earth prepared for war, but not the kind the Ha expected. Cities were partially evacuated, with only military personnel and volunteers remaining. The buildings stayed intact, lights still glowing at night, making everything appear normal. It was bait in the largest trap humanity had ever constructed. Colonel Boram Shin commanded the ground forces. She was a career soldier who had studied guerrilla warfare and unconventional tactics her entire life. Now she trained 50,000 volunteers in methods that seemed primitive compared to modern warfare. They learned tracking, endurance, running, and persistence hunting, techniques that ancient humans had used to survive. Engineer Taeyang and worked in underground facilities, developing weapons that matched the new strategy. His team created persistence drones that could follow a target for days without recharging. They built exhaustion field generators that disrupted an enemy's rest cycles. They designed psychological warfare systems that broadcast sounds calculated to disturb Hailstrom's sleep patterns. Among the volunteers was Yuna Han, a civilian who had won 3 planetary marathon championships. She was 32 years old, lean and strong, with a calm determination in her eyes. When the military asked for people who could run for extended periods, Yuna was the first to volunteer. She trained with Colonel Boram personally, learning how to track aliens through wilderness and urban environments. The Hailstrom fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 17 massive motherships dropped into orbit around Earth, their hulls decorated with trophies from thousands of previous hunts. Smaller craft swarmed around them like insects. The aliens broadcast their arrival across their empire. Billions of Ha watched, eager to see humanity's final hunt. 10,000 hunters descended to Earth's surface in ceremonial landing craft. They wore their finest armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Each hunter had trained for years, earning the honor of participating in the grand hunt. They expected to spend weeks hunting humans through the cities and forests, claiming trophies that would bring glory to their families. The initial contact went exactly as the Hailstrom predicted. Humans scattered when the aliens appeared, running into buildings and wilderness areas. They seemed terrified, disorganized, exactly like prey should behave. The hunters divided into their traditional small packs and pursued, following the ancient rules of honorable hunting. For the first 6 hours, the Hailstrom enjoyed themselves. They chased humans through city streets, tracking them with sophisticated sensors. They wounded targets carefully, making the hunt last longer. Everything proceeded according to their expectations. The broadcast back to their empire showed successful hunts frightened prey and confident hunters. Then something changed. The humans stopped running randomly. They started running with purpose, in organized groups that switched out members every few hours. The hunters found themselves being pursued instead of pursuing. Teams of humans followed individual Hailstrom packs, tracking them relentlessly through urban terrain. Legendary Hailstrom hunt master named Krev led his pack into the Rocky Mountains, following a group of human runners. He expected the chase to last a few hours at most. Instead, the humans kept running. When his pack rested, the humans appeared on nearby ridges, watching. When his pack moved, the humans followed. After 12 hours, Krev began to feel something he had never experienced before: fatigue. Yuna led the civilian team tracking Kriath. Her group consisted of 15 runners who rotated in shifts. 3 would pursue actively, while the others rested in a support vehicle that followed at a distance. They tracked the hound pack Through mountain passes, across rivers, and up steep slopes, the aliens were fast in short bursts but could not maintain the pace for long periods. After 24 hours, Kavath's pack tried to set an ambush. They hid in a narrow canyon, waiting for the humans to blindly pursue. Instead, the humans stopped at the canyon entrance and waited. They drank water, ate food, and watched the canyon opening. After 2 hours, one of Kath's pack members panicked and broke cover. The humans immediately resumed pursuit. At 48 hours, Krevoth's pack was exhausted. They had not slept, barely eaten, and pushed their bodies past normal limits. The humans were still there, still following, still watching. Fresh human runners appeared regularly, replacing tired ones. The chase was relentless, inescapable, and terrifying. At 72 hours, Krevoth collapsed. His pack members were already down, suffering from severe dehydration and exhaustion. Yuna's team approached carefully, weapons ready but not firing. They captured all 4 Hailstrom alive, stripping their armor and weapons. Then they broadcast footage of the capture back to the alien empire. This pattern repeated across Earth. Human teams pursued Hailstrom hunters through forests, deserts, and ruined cities. They used drones to track at night, exhaustion fields to prevent sleep, and psychological warfare to break alien morale. The Hailstrom had never been hunted before. They had no training for it, no experience with being prey. Their honor system crumbled under the stress. Colonel Barham coordinated the ground operations from a mobile command center. She watched with satisfaction as report after report came in. Hailstrom hunters captured, Hailstrom hunters dead from exhaustion, Hailstrom hunters surrendering rather than face another hour of pursuit. The aliens had expected a glorious hunt. Instead, they found a nightmare of endless running. Lieutenant Me led special operations teams that infiltrated the Hailstrom ships in orbit. They did not sabotage or destroy anything. Instead, they stole trophies the aliens had collected over centuries. They took recordings of famous hunts. Then they replaced them with footage of humans hunting high across Earth's surface. The psychological impact on the alien crews was devastating. In space, Captain Day 1 commanded a fleet of fast human ships. They engaged the Hailstrom mother ships using hit-and-run tactics. The alien ships were powerful, but designed for short, decisive battles. The human ships were built for endurance with efficient engines and large fuel reserves. They attacked, retreated, then returned before the Hailstrom crews could rest. Admiral Hunsake watched from the command center. As the battle evolved, the Hailstrom had superior weapons and stronger shields, but they could not maintain continuous combat. Human crews worked in shifts, keeping fresh personnel on duty at all times. The alien crews grew exhausted, made mistakes, and began taking damage. After 12 days, the situation was clear. 8,000 Hailstrom hunters on Earth's surface were dead or captured. The remaining 2,000 attempted to retreat to their ships, but human forces pursued them even during evacuation. In space, 3 Hailstrom motherships had been destroyed and 5 more were severely damaged. The rest were trying to withdraw from the system. Jiwan had watched the entire battle from the command center. She was 15 now, training as a junior officer under Daywin's guidance. She saw the Hailstrom retreat and felt a cold satisfaction. These were the same aliens who had massacred her colony, who had treated humans as animals to be hunted for sport. Admiral Hunick made an announcement to the fleet. The battle was not over. Operation Reversal would continue. The Hellstrom came to Earth to hunt humans. Now humanity would hunt them back to their own worlds. The prey had become the predator, and the hunt was just beginning. The Admiral's message was broadcast not just to human forces, but to the entire Hailstrom Empire. Let them see what happened when they chose the wrong species to hunt. Let them experience the fear that countless prey species had felt for millennia. Let them understand what it meant to be hunted by something that never stopped, never tired, and never forgave. Captain Sarabay commanded the hunter-killer ship named Persistence. The vessel was built specifically for extended pursuit operations with efficient engines, large fuel capacity, and a crew rotation system that kept fresh personnel on duty at all times. Her mission was simple: chase retreating Hellstrom ships until they surrendered or were destroyed. The Persistence tracked a HA cruiser called Pride of Hunters across 4-star system. The alien ship was faster in short bursts, but the human vessel never stopped pursuing. When the HA ship jumped to another system, the Persistence followed. When the aliens tried to hide near asteroid fields or gas giants, human sensors eventually found them. The chase lasted 3 weeks. On the 21st day, the Pride of Hunters ran out of fuel. The crew had pushed their engines too hard, trying to escape pursuit that never ended. Sara's ship approached carefully, weapons ready. The helm sent a surrender signal, the first time in their recorded history that a hunter ship had submitted to prey. Sara took the crew prisoner and claimed the vessel as a trophy. News of Earth's victory spread through the galaxy quickly. Dozens of species that the Hailstrom had hunted for centuries heard the reports with disbelief. Some thought it was propaganda or tricks. Others dared to hope that their ancient tormentors might finally be challenged. The prey species watched and waited, wondering if humanity's success could be repeated. Dr. Jun Park worked with the captured Hailstrom, studying their psychology and interviewing them about their society. He was a linguist and cultural analyst who had learned the alien language within weeks of first contact. Now he spent hours talking with prisoners, understanding how the defeat had affected them mentally. The interviews revealed a civilization in crisis. Young Hailstrom hunters who had survived Earth spoke of nightmares where they were chased endlessly. They described the terror of being hunted by something that never stopped, never rested, and never showed mercy. Some questioned the fundamental principles of their society. If the greatest hunters could become prey, what did that mean for the honor of predation? The Hailstrom High Council attempted to restore their reputation with a massive counteroffensive. They gathered their remaining military forces and launched simultaneous attacks on 3 human colony worlds: Nuju, Kimchi Station, and a mining colony called Tibek. The council broadcast their intentions across the galaxy, declaring that Earth's victory had been luck and that the hunts would resume properly. Colonel Boram commanded the defense of Nuju, a farming colony with 20,000 settlers. When the Hailstrom fleet arrived, Boram did not evacuate the population or prepare traditional defenses. Instead, she turned the entire colony into a hunting ground where Humans were the apex predators. The Hailstorm hunters landed expecting. Frightened farmers they found. Disciplined teams using farming equipment as weapons platforms. Tractors, mounted with heavy guns, pursued alien packs through wheat fields. Irrigation systems were modified to create exhaustion zones. The settlers fought with knowledge earned from Earth's battle, and they fought with personal rage for every colony the Ham had destroyed. At Kimchi Station, a colony built into asteroid mines, the defense was even more brutal. The miners knew every tunnel and shaft in the complex. When Hailstorm hunters entered, pursuing what they thought was prey, the humans collapsed tunnels strategically. They trapped alien packs in dead ends, cut off their retreat, and hunted them through the darkness with mining equipment and improvised weapons. Counselor Minyu Yang worked at the diplomatic level, reaching out to other species oppressed by the Hailstorm. He was the United Earth Coalition's political liaison, skilled at negotiation and alliance building. His message to prey species was simple: humanity proved the Hailstorm could be beaten, joined together, and the empire would fall. Several species responded. The Vexilin, a race of quick-moving herbivores, launched their first rebellion in 300 years. They attacked Ha facilities on their home world using tactics copied from human broadcasts. The tauren and aquatic species destroyed hunting preserves built in their oceans. Rebellion spread like fire through dry grass. The Hailstorm Empire began collapsing from within. Species that had accepted their role as prey for generations suddenly fought back. High Council struggled to respond to multiple crises simultaneously. Their military was stretched thin, their hunters demoralized, and their fundamental beliefs shaken. Some Hailstorm began to defect, seeking refuge with human forces. One defector was a young hunter named Vanran. He had survived the battle on Earth and could not shake the memory of being chased for days without rest. He contacted human forces through secret channels, offering information about the Hailstorm home world in exchange for protection. Admiral Hunsek agreed to the terms. Veteran provided detailed intelligence about the Hailstorm home system, including defense positions, fleet strength, and political divisions within the High Council. He explained that many younger Hailstorm questioned the hunting tradition after experiencing terror firsthand. The older generation demanded total war, but the younger generation wanted peace, even if it meant abandoning centuries of tradition. Admiral Hunsek called a council meeting with all senior officers and advisors. The question was simple: should humanity pursue total war against the Hailstorm home world or offer terms for peace? The debate lasted hours. Some argued for complete destruction as justice for the massacred colonies. Others argued that becoming genocidal would make humanity no better than the enemy they fought. Daewon attended the meeting with Jiwon, who was now a junior officer serving on his ship. At 16, she had grown hard and focused, driven by memories of her colony's destruction. When the admiral asked for her opinion, everyone turned to listen. She was the youngest survivor, the symbol of humanity's loss and rage. Jiwon spoke carefully. I want them to suffer for what they did. I want them to feel every moment of fear that my mother felt before she died. But if we kill them all, we become the thing we hate. We become the predators who hunt for Revenge instead of justice, the room was silent. Admiral Hunnick nodded slowly. He made his decision. The coalition would launch Operation Final Mile, not as an invasion but as a demonstration. They would show the Halstom that humanity could destroy them completely, but chose not to. They would offer peace terms from a position of absolute strength. The human fleet assembled for the final operation. Day 1 commanded a battle group that included the Morning Star and 30 other vessels. Zara's Persistence joined them along with ships commanded by officers who had proven themselves in previous engagements. They jumped to the Halstrom home system, together appearing in orbit without warning. The Halstrom home world was a fortress planet protected by defense stations and a standing fleet, but most of their military was scattered across the galaxy, fighting rebellions and trying to maintain control. The human fleet outnumbered the local defenses 3-1. Admiral Hunsaker sent a message to the surface, broadcast across all Halstrom communication channels. The message was simple: humanity did not want extermination or endless war. They wanted the hunting to stop for all species. Forever. The Halstrom could accept peace terms and begin changing their society, or humanity would destroy their home world and scatter their species across the galaxy as refugees. The choice was theirs, but they had 24 hours to decide. Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Morning Star, watching the planet below. Somewhere down there, Halstrom families lived, worked, and raised children just like humans did. They were not monsters, just people shaped by cruel culture. She wondered if they could change, if predators could ever truly become something else. The human fleet waited in orbit while the Halstrom High Council debated. Admiral Hunnick used the time to conduct Operation Final Miles demonstration phase. Human forces captured 3 sacred hunting preserves in the Halstrom home system, liberating thousands of prey species held there. The operation was broadcast across all channels, showing Halstrom that humanity meant every word. The preserves were massive facilities where the aliens kept species from across the galaxy, freeing prisoners and documenting the conditions. Dr. Hana accompanied the liberation teams, providing medical care and studying the different species. She found beings that had been captive for generations, some who no longer remembered their home worlds. Inside the High Council chamber on the Halstrom home world, traditional hunters argued for total war. They claimed surrendering to prey would destroy everything their civilization stood for. Death in battle would be preferable to such dishonor. The younger council members, including survivors from Earth, argued differently. They had experienced the terror of being hunted. They knew humanity would not stop until the Halstrom were extinct. Veteran addressed the council. Despite having no official position, he was a defector and traitor in the eyes of traditionalists, but his words carried weight with younger Ha. He described being chased through Earth's mountains, the exhaustion, the fear, the realization that he might die like any prey animal. He told them that honor meant nothing to the dead. We ruled the galaxy through strength, Veteran said. But strength has many forms. Humans were weaker in speed and weapons, but stronger in endurance and will. They adapted, they learned. They became better hunters than us because they understood both sides. They had been prey before they became predators. We only ever knew one role: the Council. Voted with a narrow margin, they would accept humanity's terms and negotiate. For peace, the message was sent to Admiral Hunnick 22 hours after his ultimatum. The Admiral acknowledged their decision and invited Council representatives to a neutral station for treaty negotiations. The treaty talks took place on a human space station positioned between the two territories. Security was handled by Colonel Boram's forces, with Lieutenant Me personally overseeing protection for both delegations. The negotiations would decide the future of dozens of species and reshape galactic politics. The human delegation included Admiral Hunnick, Dr. Hana, Counselor Minu, and several other experts. Surprisingly, the delegation also included civilians. Yuna, who had become famous across the galaxy for hunting a legendary Hailstrom, and Juwan, representing the youngest generation and future relations. The Hailstrom sent senior council members, military leaders, and Vikran as an advisor. The aliens entered the negotiation room with visible discomfort. They were predators forced to negotiate with prey, an unprecedented situation in their history. The traditional honor codes provided no guidance for this scenario. Dr. Hana presented research that formed the basis of the peace terms. She explained that predation and cooperation were not opposites in nature. Earth's history showed that apex predators often establish territorial balance with prey species. Competition could exist without extermination. The hunt could exist without slavery. The proposed accord had several key terms. First, the Holostrom would immediately cease all hunting of sentient species and dismantle the preserve system. Second, they would return conquered territories to prey species, offering reparations where possible. Third, they would undergo cultural restructuring with human oversight, teaching new generations about coexistence rather than predation. Fourth, all species, including Hailstrom, would join a new coalition of free species dedicated to mutual protection and cooperation. The negotiations were tense. Traditional Hailstrom Council members objected to every term, seeing them as humiliation. Younger members, led by Vikran, argued that adaptation was survival. The back-end fourth lasted for days. Counselor Minu demonstrated impressive patience, finding compromised positions that addressed Hailstrom honor concerns while maintaining the core requirements. On the fifth day, extremist Hailstrom hunters launched a suicide attack on the station. They believed the negotiations were a betrayal of everything their species represented. They would rather die fighting than accept peace with prey. The attack involved 3 ships and 40 armed hunters who breached the station's outer hull. Colonel Boram's forces responded immediately, but the extremists fought with desperate fury. The battle moved through the station corridors with human soldiers trying to protect both delegations. Lieutenant Me personally shielded the Hailstrom Council members when attackers broke through the outer defense line. She took a blast meant for Vikran, her armor absorbing most of the damage but leaving her injured. The attack was stopped within 30 minutes, but 12 humans and 8 moderate Ha died in the fighting. The extremists were all killed or captured. The violence proved what everyone suspected: the transition from predator society to peaceful coexistence would take generations and would face resistance every step of the way. veteran visited MJI in the medical bay after the attack. She had saved his life, a reversal that would have been unthinkable months earlier. They spoke carefully, each representing their species and the uncertain future they were building. MJI asked why he had defected, and veteran explained that experiencing true fear had changed something fundamental in him. He could no longer see other beings as prey after knowing what prey felt. The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Accord of Free Species established principles for galactic coexistence and created oversight mechanisms to ensure compliance. The Hailstorm would maintain some autonomy, but would be monitored by coalition forces for at least a generation. Prey species would receive support for rebuilding, and any species could join the new coalition voluntarily. Not every Ha accepted the accord. Some fled to frontier regions, vowing to continue the old ways. Others remained on their home world but simmered with resentment. The cultural change would be painful and slow, but veteran and other reformers began the hard work of teaching new values to Hailstorm youth, children who would grow up knowing cooperation as well as competition. 5 years passed. The galaxy transformed slowly but steadily. Former prey species rebuilt their civilizations with coalition support. The Ha adapted to new roles, their natural strength and discipline, making them valuable in exploration and security rather than hunting. Humanity became respected, but also slightly feared, known as the species that turned predators into prey. Juan served as a full officer now, commanding a patrol ship in the coalition fleet. Her crew included both humans and a young Ha named Tore, who had been raised under the new system. He had never participated in a hunt and viewed the old ways with confusion. To him, other species were colleagues and friends, not prey, working alongside him. Felt strange to Juan at first, but she gradually accepted that this was the future they had fought for. Anniversary of the Epsilon 7 massacre brought survivors together for a memorial service. Thousands attended, including those rescued from Hailstorm preserves and settlers from colonies that had been attacked. Admiral Huni, now retired, gave a speech that was broadcast across coalition space. "We were prey," the admiral said. "We were hunted, killed, treated as animals for sport. We could have responded with hatred, seeking only revenge and extermination, but we chose a harder path. We became strong enough to hunt back, then wise enough to stop hunting. We showed that the cycle of predator and prey could be broken." He continued, "We are neither prey nor predators. Now we are survivors who understand both roles. We know the fear of being hunted and the power of hunting back. That knowledge gives us responsibility. We will never forget those we lost, but we will not let grief make us into the monsters we defeated." Daewon attended the ceremony with the surviving crew of the Morning Star. Many had been with him during that terrible first day when they found Epsilon 7 destroyed. They had witnessed humanity's darkest moment and its greatest triumph. The captain placed flowers at the memorial wall where thousands of names were carved, including Juwan's mother. Dr. Hana published her research as a book titled The Persistence Paradox. It became required reading across the coalition, explaining how humanity's evolutionary advantages had turned the tide and what that meant for understanding intelligent Species, the core thesis was simple. Never giving up was humanity's greatest strength, whether as prey fleeing, extinction, or as predators pursuing justice. Una returned to civilian life, though she occasionally advised coalition forces on endurance training. She had become a symbol of human determination, the runner who had chased a legendary hunter until he collapsed. Sometimes she thought about those 72 hours in the mountains, the exhaustion and focus required to keep going. She realized that persistence was not about being the fastest or strongest, but about being the one who refused to stop. The memorial service ended with a moment of silence for all species who had suffered under the old system. Humans, Vexilin, Tauren, and dozens of others stood together, including Hailstrom, who had embraced the new ways. They were building something unprecedented, a galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than predation, on mutual respect rather than hunting rights. Jiun stood with her crew, Tauri. Beside her, the young Hailstrom had asked her once what it felt like to hate his species for what they had done. She had answered honestly that she still carried anger and pain, but she also carried hope. The anger reminded her why the old system could never return. The hope reminded her why they had fought for something better than revenge. As the ceremony concluded and people dispersed, Jiwen looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, extremist Histrom still believed in the old ways. Somewhere out there, other predator species might threaten the peace. The work was not finished and would not be finished in her lifetime, but humanity had proven something important, that prey could fight back, that predators could change, and that the galaxy could evolve beyond the hunt if someone was brave enough to demand